Of course, Swiergosz here for Slap News Fighter Edition, how to get a sponsorship. Why am I credible to speak on this? Because I have over 15 years of experience in the sports supplement industry. I've worked for a wide range of consumer packaged goods and sports supplements. So I have seen both sides as an athlete myself, competing in bodybuilding and as well working with some of the biggest companies here in North America and looking at partnerships, agreements, and arrangements of what makes them successful and what makes them not successful. So here today, we're going to go over everything that you can do as a fighter to be able to attract sponsorships to you, retain those sponsorships, and get them renewed and turn these into long-lasting business relationships. So what is a sponsorship? A sponsorship is when a company enters into an agreement with you, the athlete, in order to promote a product or a service. In exchange for you promoting their brand, which will then in turn lead back to sales of the company. So as you can see, a sponsorship is a two-way business partnership. It's just like a marriage. It takes people from both sides have to collectively work together, and each side has to work together to deliver value to each other. This is truly the secret to a long-term business relationship. A sponsorship is not one way. The company doesn't give you the money, you go out and fight, and then you call it a day. That's not how sponsorship works in this day and age. And if that's the case, what's going to happen is you'll get a sponsor for one fight and they'll be gone the next because they won't be retained because they will not be getting the value that they perceive from the sponsorship that they have given you. If you want to keep, attract, and maintain these sponsorships, you need to truly conduct a two-way business relationship where you are bringing value back to the brand as they are bringing value to you in whatever sponsorship that is being delivered. Sponsorships typically take place in two forms. One will take place in exchange for product, for services and promotions. So an example, a company, let's call it a beef jerky company, will give you free beef jerky for the next year in exchange for you promoting their company, wearing their t-shirts, doing posts on social media, or potentially, store appearances or whatever they need from you, whatever's going to be detailed within that contract. You're going to need to fulfill that in order to keep that contract valid and ongoing. The second way can be a combination of product plus payment, or you can also have a straight payment. So these are three different ways that sponsorships can take place. And if a company is giving you money, for example, let's say they're giving you $500 a month salary to promote and sponsor their brand, they're going to expect that you are delivering them back in return a value equal to or greater to that $500. And just so people understand, let's bring it back to the beef jerky analogy, for example. Let's use very simple numbers, and they got a massive mega bag of beef jerky that costs $100 US. Their cost on that is $50, and there's a $50 profit on that $100 bag of beef jerky. So if they're giving you $500 a month to sponsor, they are then in turn expecting you to deliver that same value back. So $50 profit. So you divide 500 by 50, they expect you to deliver 10 sales every single month back to their company for their mammoth bag of beef jerky. If this is the case, the business relationship will continue to go on because there is that perceived value in having you as a sponsored athlete. So you want to take these things into consideration whenever you are looking at or whenever you're making your requests or demands in regards to a sponsorship. You should make sure that they're realistic and that they're attainable. Look at what the profit margins are of the products that you can assume what the profit margins are of the products that you are trying to represent, and then figure out for what their offer is, how many sales you would have to deliver back in return. There's a couple ways that brands will do this. One, they will give you a unique promo code. So John Smith, so if you enter John 10 at discount, you will get 10% off your order. And they will know that discount code was directly related back to the fighter. So somewhere along the way, they came across your content and are using your promo code to be able to deliver that sale, and it will give you the credit for it. So that's one option. Another way that they do it is by having trackable links. They can give you links that you place within your social media that has a unique identifier on it. So they will be able to track, it'll cookie the customer's browser, and they will be able to credit you for the actual sale itself. You may ask as well, like some companies, if they want something different otherwise, they will tell you within the original contract and negotiate, and they will place additional value. So for a prime example, if they want you to do a store appearance, or they want you to attend a gym on their behalf and represent them, they may place a value of $200 an hour on that. So they will then take that into consideration. So one store appearance of the month, $200 value. Now they're only expecting $300 in return from sales. So all of these things have a dollar value on it. Let's say that they say that they would like to, offer you, they want you to do 4 main page posts a month and they value them at $50. So there's another $200. Check. So they're gonna equate in their mind everything that you do put together to see what the profit, what the profit potential is and the value that is getting delivered. So keeping that in your mind, obviously it's a two-way ship. If they're paying you up front, they're holding up to their end of the bargain and they are giving you an advance for that money. They are expecting to get it back in return by all of the efforts that they ask you to fulfill throughout that entire month. So those are the most common ways for sponsorships. And I talked about what the brand values in that and how they're going to determine whether a sponsorship is worth it or not worth it for them. Because what ends up happening a lot of the times is athletes will enter into sponsorships. The company believes in the athlete. They both go into the agreement mutually, accepting, wanting, willing, and excited. But then what happens is if one side or the other does not follow through with that actual agreement, then things end up turning sour. When the contract ends, it doesn't get renewed. You wonder why. And it's ultimately coming back because usually the brand or the athlete, for example, didn't feel that the value was held up on the other side. However, you, the athlete, if you obtain a sponsorship and you agree to a 1-year contract, for example, you do your absolute best effort, and then you determine that, let's go back to the analogy of the $500 they were paying you, that you were actually bringing them $1,000 of value in that first year, and they were only paying you $500. Well, guess what? Don't get upset, because once your contract is over, you can use that information and go back to renew for a second year at a higher rate. So you could go back and say, hey, I believe I'm bringing you $1,000 in value. You should be paying me $1,000 a year now, plus product or whatever it is. So utilizing and growing, and these contracts can change and evolve over time as long as the value is there for both parties along the way. So what can you do as an athlete to increase that value? Because I think that's probably where you're at right now. If you're still listening to this video, I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure you're subscribed to it already, but if you're not, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button so that you get alerted when we release new content, which is coming out every day, trying to do these fighter edition help desks to be able to help you fighters, make more money, have more fun, and keep winning fights. So we're going to talk really about what you can do as an athlete. In some regards, winning helps. Yes, absolutely. Winning does help. If you win your matches, you get, seen more in the media, your name gets bigger, you get more following. All of that is definitely true, but it doesn't have to be the only thing, because some of the best athletes and the highest paid athletes may not be the ones with the belts at this current time, but they are good at promoting and representing themselves in other ways. So first off, what I'm going to say, I'm not aware of the contracts that if you're in Power Slap or if you're in Slap Fight Championship, as to the terms and the conditions of what are inside of your contract as it relates to sponsorship. So you'll want to definitely check with the brass of whatever organization you're working with and see what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable in regards to what you're doing. From what I can see from Power Slap number 1, you're definitely not allowed to wear any of the apparel when you're going out into the ring or have any of their logos with on, the clothing that was provided. You can't wear a sponsor's shirt. You have to wear the official Power Slap shirt, but definitely make sure to check with your contract so that you are in full liability, with that, and you're not compromising whatsoever. You do see a ton of other athletes are doing different things. Ryan Phillips starting a podcast, having sponsors sponsor the podcast as one way to get around whatever is in that contract for Power Slap. So definitely keep those things in mind as you evolve and as you keep going throughout this process. But what can you do? So one, right off the bat, you need to tap into your networks. So whether that's your personal networks that you have, so in person is one potential way, in your local gym, whether trying to bring in the products of your sponsor to the gym, offer promo codes to other people that attend that gym. You want to work your local circle. That is the easiest way to deliver sales, is working those local connections that you have the most credibility with. Secondly, taking to social media. If you're not good at social media, or you have a slow, a new, small social media following, work that. That is an asset in itself. The actual aura, the connection, and the actual community that you build with on social media is going to be another way that you can prove that you're a credible resource. And once you prove that you're a credible resource, these individuals will do whatever you say and purchase the products that you recommend. So by building out social media brings more value to the brand. I can tell you social media presence is the number one thing that companies are looking for right now because there's a great and a high probability of conversion to sale. So growing your social media is incredibly important. You have time in your day. You should be spending 30 to 60 minutes a day minimum. You should be posting at least 1 to 2 times a day in your stories actively throughout the entire day. And you want to be seen as very active. People want to follow people that are active and current and are doing things. So when you're doing them, you want to share that with others. So social media is incredibly important. I can't stress that enough, that you want to do that. Additionally, you want to go above and beyond for your sponsor. Whatever it is, whatever they ask, or whatever you see them, valuing, you want to do more of that. And I would suggest if they want you to do 4 posts a month, go on for 5 or 6. These are just the minimum standards that are set forth. If you go above and beyond, you'll be in a much more stronger negotiating period when it comes around to the second contract with that particular brand. So always stay up. Just realize that it is a two-way street. It is a business partnership. You want to be obviously represent yourself well. You want to win as many fights as you can. You want to create networks and communities both locally as well as online through social media, and then do whatever obligations they need, whether in-person appearances or anything else from you. You want to make sure that you fulfill those obligations for them. The one thing that you don't want to do is don't reach out cold turkey to a company if you've never used their products. There will be companies that will come to you, and that's okay. If you've never used it, you can be honest and open and say, hey, I've never used your product, but I would like to. Please send me some product. I'll try it out. If I like it, I'll endorse your brand at whatever X agreement. But don't lie about it. One of the things you could do here today, if no one's coming to you, don't just cold message people and ask them for a sponsorship, because guess what? It's probably not going to happen, because they might even think that you've never used their product. So the best thing to do is actually just start making content. Start putting out that you love Jim's Jerky, tag Jim's Jerky, do posts, talk about it, talk to your friends about it. Just act like you are a sponsored athlete already before you are. And if you put it out there and they see the value, then they will sign you on the spot. So you should be doing that with everything. You got a new pair of Nikes? Tag Nike and talk about how great they are. You have a new shirt from a local clothing company? Throw that on, tag them, give them a shout out. You're going to draw and attract the attention of all these different businesses when you do that stuff already. So pretend and act like you are already a sponsored athlete of that brand. You love someone's protein powder, every day in your shake, tag them, shout them out. And over time, they are going to notice you. And if they see the value that you're bringing and the excitement and the enthusiasm and the passion, then they are naturally going to want to work with you. So you can do that as a leg up on everybody else instead of just sending a cold message. Hey, can you sponsor my fight camp? No, consume their information, promote it, whatever it is, their service, their product, whatever they're offering. And if they see value in that in return, then they will openly offer you a sponsorship. So that's what you can do to stay effective with it and, keep on going. And once you get these sponsorships, as I said, it's easier to keep them than to start new ones. And realize the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You don't want to be seen as someone that just turns over sponsorships, every time you fight or every year when the contract is done, because you will be seen in the industry as somebody that cannot hold the contract. You want to do whatever you can to keep that contract. So fulfilling your obligations and keeping the value high on both sides, staying in constant contact with your sponsor is going to allow you to be successful, allow you to get into that second contract, that third contract, and be able to truly have, a partnership that'll be life-changing money for you and will have, a lot of satisfaction on both sides. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. You can also send me a direct message on Instagram. Would love to have a further chat with you. If you're a fighter that wants to know more about it, you want to pick my brain, any questions that I didn't answer, just reach out. Of course, it's slap_news on YouTube. We'll also drop this on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all other major platforms where you consume your podcasting. So just keep bringing you more information, trying to help you out, be a good resource to you. This is my way to give back to you guys with all the experience and the knowledge that I have in the sport.